And it looks like we're live. And
We're
I just
live.
did something on my microphone there, but fuck it. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Is It Just Us?
Is it just us? Is it just us? Sorry, I'm just moving my boomer camera.
Boomer camera.
My boomer camera. There you go.
So, Russ, how the devil art thou? What have you been up to, good sir?
Oh yeah, it's good. I got my redundancy payment, so that was good.
Nice. Bit of extra money in the skyrocket. I like it.
Basically, I finished the final gig, and now basically all my clients are saying, no, the beer virus has got us, and there's nothing for a little while. So I've kind of gone on the furlough scheme, which is great. I think it's a fantastic thing that the government are doing. It's not socialism, by the way, but it is something that is right. It's the only way you're going to get everybody back on their feet after this has blown over. The only way you're going to get the economy moving is by pumping money into it and making sure that people have livelihoods and the ability to feed themselves afterwards. So it looks to me like my current clients, they basically said to me, look, probably October is when we think confidence is going to come back. So it's probably when we're going to start throwing more work at you. In the meantime, I'm going to take the opportunity to produce my book, which was something I was going to do anyway. And that in itself, as far as the finances is concerned, is R&D, putting back into myself to make a revenue stream. So yeah, it's been an interesting week. Yeah. That's about it. You can't do anything or go anywhere.
So that's your way of saying same shit, extra money.
Same shit, yeah. But at least I can eat,
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah, same shit. At least I can eat. So that's happening. I did a live stream yesterday, my first ever live stream on my own, where I did some inking for the Storm Chasers book. The Storm Chasers book I was asked to do some time ago, and I'm finishing that off for them now. And hopefully, Unstoppable. That's JD Rosario, and he hails out of New York, and they make fantastic superhero books. That's what they do. They just do great stuff. And they were doing diversity properly before Marvel even thought about it. And when I say that, Marvel have always been diverse, but it's the people that shouted really loudly about it now. And Jay was just a natural at it. I mean, one of the things he talks about is not seeing superheroes the way he looks. He's Latino. I don't. Latino, is that it? Latino. I think that is. I ponder about that because I don't quite understand it all, but I don't really care. He's a really nice guy, and I like him, and he's a great publisher, and he writes really well. But he does what he's done is he's gone back and found lots of heroes that have lots of diverse backgrounds. Like he's got one that's based on Quetzalcoatl, and so like the whole Mayan, or is it I think it's Mayan,
Aztec,
isn't it? It's Aztec. That's it. Aztec's the whole Mexican thing, but there's from all around the world. It's absolutely fantastic. He's been doing it for a while now, and I've been in and out of his universe, drawing books for him occasionally. And they are great books. So check Unstoppable Comics out. He does a really good ninja book actually, which is Dragon Storm, I think it's called. Check that out. That's really good. Cool. So I've been doing that, and what I wanted to do was do some live streams, showing me inking live, because I'm not very good at doing things live. I can't talk while I'm drawing. So I've got BB Black Dog, who are a band. They're a steampunk rock band, and
sold to the man with the barking spider.
Go check out BB Black Dog. They're great. I did some album artwork for them way back when I started freelancing, and they're lovely guys, and they're exceptionally talented. So what I do is I have them on the big television in the background, and I draw live. That's what I did yesterday, and I'm going to do some more of that this week. And that's a practice, because what I want to do is do a lot more of that for my book, Only Death Can Save Us, so I can build up to the point where I launched the crowdfunder. So there you go. That's what I've been doing. What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? Oh man, I've been keeping busy. I'm still working on Lady Satan because, as I said before, I'm trying to plot out all the books, and some of the ideas that I had for some of the later books that I've been looking forward to playing with, I'm starting to play with them.
Cool.
And there's one particular storyline that I was like, I know this one's going to be tough, but if I nail this, this is the real heart of the story, of the entire long form narrative. And it centers around what I call a suicide show, where there's this underground society who, you know, they're very sort of like, oh yes, and you know how they used to have masquerades with the masks on the stick and all that. It's a similar thing, except you know, they're all well dressed, but they wear like animal masks, and they go to this old theater where they've abducted people and they force them to commit suicide on stage and then mark them
Ooh.
on the suicides that they do.
Right.
And it's connected to part of like a bigger crime thing that goes within like the police force, and Lady Satan needs to sort it out. And I've been doing research for that. That is a tough thing to do. I spent a whole afternoon reading actual suicide notes, which is a very interesting hobby to start taking up. To do research for a book. So it's been tough, but it has been so worth doing all this research and getting to play around with these scenes. And like some of the scenes, before I've plotted them, I've kind of started storyboarding them like a movie, which I found to be like really helpful. I haven't used that technique before with a story, so that was quite cool. And on top of that, I've been working on a 3-track Murderfolk EP that I've started recording and mixing, and hopefully that will be done by the end of the week. Fingers crossed, maybe a bit longer, but you know, it's been a lot of fun. So
you're so creative. That's so creative.
Well, what I find is it's like I was saying last week with the creative ADD, I find like the best thing to do, or as I've recently discovered, the best thing for me to do is try to focus on one thing. And the moment I start feeling that itch to do something else is to start doing something a bit more active.
Right.
Whether it be like having a walk, doing some tidying or whatever, I do that and then go on to something else. And for some reason, doing that makes me more focused on like 1 or 2 projects rather than going, I want to do this and this and this and this and this all at the same time. So that's what I've done, and this is what it's resulted into. Me going, I'm really focused on Lady Satan, and then I find that itch to do something else. So like I'll do some exercise in the garden, or I'll do some tidying up, and then I'm like, okay, I think I'll just work on this for an hour or two. And then once I've worked on that for an hour or two, I'm like, okay, now I can go back to Lady Satan for a bit. And I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm being pulled in a million directions.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good, because you don't want that. No. I managed to do it by only thinking about one thing at once.
See, I tried to do that, but this thing up here, it's both my best friend and my worst enemy.
Yeah.
So...
No. Because I'm very one-dimensional. It's easy for me.
Well, I'm like an onion, me. I'm layered.
Layers.
I'm layered, and I make people cry.
Layers.
Oh man! So I guess that leads into Russ. What the hell is grinding your gears this week?
What's grinding my gears this week? I tell you, what's grinding my gears? People, organisations, corporations that pretend they're your fucking friend. It's the amount of adverts on at the moment. Like, you've got this Lloyd's Bank advert on that's talking about like emotional support and mental health. And don't get me wrong, mental health is really important. It's important to have support, and the charity I think that's involved with them is an important charity. But banks don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about your mental health. They're just doing it to get customers to make money. And it's like, whenever you see an advert for a car, and the car's like, oh, it's a beautiful area, and they're out by the sea, and it's like, look at this car. If you didn't have this car, you'd never go out and taste the beauty of the outdoors. You'd never have a family. Your life would be awful. Just fuck off, will you? Please don't try and make out you're making my life for me with a product or with a service. Okay, go away. All right, oh God.
I so get where you're coming from, man.
Anyway, and it's not just companies, it's people as well, like celebrities. Like, let's sing a song online, and or let's do a little show on YouTube, like we're doing. Except we don't give a shit whether you watch it or not. This is for us. This is
exactly.
My dad used to crack jokes at me, my old dad, and sometimes people wouldn't laugh. And people would say to him, do you not want to say that again? It's like, why would I say it again? I told the joke for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not interested whether anybody laughs at it or not. And that's the thing about celebrities. It's because they want all this attention. And they're like, we're going to do this fantastic show for you. And it's like, no, you're doing it for yourself. So, yeah, this week, what grinded my gears was people and corporations and companies and product placement that was trying to be my friend. And it wasn't. It was just trying to take my money. Okay, so that's it.
I get where you're coming from. When you were talking about like the car commercials, I get that because the amount of time.
Sorry, Salazar should say we should sing Imagine. That's good. Imagine I give a fuck.
When you were talking about the cars, like the car commercials, it's like the one thing they used to do with the car commercials, they used to be like, if you get this car, women will touch you.
Yes.
And I used to be like, I don't drive. Yeah, if I meet the right lady at the right time, I don't need a car for them to touch me.
No,
or like,
no.
like you said, sort of like, if you don't have this car, you won't get to see these beautiful places. Fuck off! I don't drive. I walk and I see those fucking beautiful places.
Oh, I can look at them on the telly.
Lying to me. Yeah, exactly. Google Images. It exists for more than just porn. Okay. And the celebrities. Oh
dear.
I could do an impression for you right now that I have stolen from someone else. I can tell you that much. Of every single celebrity that has ever existed, whether they're like a reality TV star, a dancer, a rapper, comedian, whatever. I could do one impression that is of every single celebrity. And it goes like this. Somebody love me. Somebody love me.
What episode is this for?
Yeah, episode 4.
We've really dropped through the bottom, haven't we?
Look, I like all my conversations to start in the gutter.
Yes,
okay?
Can only get better after
level
that.
I like to go to.
Oh dear.
Have I ever told you how proud my mum is of me? By the way,
go on. Yeah, no. It's just celebrities. I've been. It's the thing that kind of grinds my gears and has been for quite a while, actually. It's because this has been going on for some time. It's not just suddenly turned up. It's got to have been like nearly 10 years. And I don't mean that there weren't any celebrities around before that. Of course there were. There were lots of needy people around in the celebrity genre. But it's just become so. I know, it's like every show is a celebrity show. When they brought back Mr. and Mrs. and it was a celebrity, Mr. and Mrs. They bring back Family Fortunes, and it's a celebrity Family Fortune. It's like, why are you giving those people gifts? They're loaded. What's going on? Why are you rewarding them with prizes? You're probably paying them to be on anyway. And the whole celebrity thing.
Say, I'm doing this for this charity.
Oh, you get a lot of that. Oh, there we go. I'm probably gonna piss some people off, but things like children in need and what have you. It's and Live Aid. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was a real thing that needed to be done to support the people that were out in Africa. It was Ethiopia at the time, but that guy, fucking the Irish one, Bob Geldof, he is a bloody grifter. He always has been a grifter, and notice how he is absolutely loaded now after doing what, because his band, the Boomtown Rats, were crap. Okay, they weren't even a proper punk band. I mean, they called them a punk band. They weren't pop.
Name me one song of theirs that isn't "Tell Me Why I Don't Like Mondays."
Yeah. No, I can't. No, exactly. And that's the whole point. No, I don't like Bob Geldof, and I don't like the way and Bono. Oh, oh, little Bono, well, with your funny little name spelt backwards, oh knob. Excuse the terrible Irish accent.
Oh, I like it.
But and I love the Irish. But that Bono's a knob as well. He really is. That's why it's in his name, backwards knob. But that whole, just like them giving of themselves and the whole charity thing, and like when you see children in need, it's so obvious that the people that are on there because they're looking for exposure. And it sullies the whole point of trying to help people. I suppose it's like we were talking about earlier about being awake. It's like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to put other people down. If you enjoy that, if you want to give money through that process, that's great. Go ahead and do it. I'm not gonna say people shouldn't, but it winds me up. It grinds my gears. So associating that with the whole comics thing, since we're talking about comics, the whole giving to that charity, to that book charity, that was to help the comic shops. There was a big thing about it a little while ago. Yeah, it was like there was a whole bunch of artists, mainstream artists and what have you, creators who were giving to this charity, and it's a book charity, a bookshop charity. So the chances of it actually getting to comic shops, whatever the money was, and apparently it was some stupid amount, like 50%. I can't remember. Somewhere between 30 and 60% of the turnover of any of the charity was just going into the running of the charity. So if you were buying something, say you bought something for $1,000, you'd be lucky if $300 of it got to any of the comic book shops. And it's the way those things are organized. I just draw your thing. If you're Jim Lee, draw something, put it on eBay. Okay, sell it for a couple of $1,000 because Jim Lee's fantastic. A couple of $1,000, and then choose a comic book shop at random and send them a check.
Yeah,
that's.
Or you can send some of your artwork to the comic shop of your choice with a little note saying, "Here you are. Here's something for me. Sell it for whatever you think it's worth. Hope it helps."
Damn it! How many comic shops are Diamond actually were before the beer virus hit? Were actually sending comics to? It's like 1,700 shops or something.
I don't like Diamond.
No, but Jim Lee's got a month. It's only 1,600 shops. Sit down and do a drawing for every shop.
And he live streams some of his drawings. He does quite quick, sharpish.
He's pretty quick.
Quicker than I was. What takes me a day to do, he should do in half an hour. So,
dear.
Couple of shit, but fuck it out. Yeah, no. Oh.
So there you go.
What a world, eh? What
a world. What a world.
We are turning into the two guys from the Muppets,
Yes, who was that? Was it Marv that said that?
I think it was, man. I think
that's like, yeah. I don't like Miss Piggy.
I love Bunsen and Beaker though.
Oh yeah,
they are just fucking awesome. So yeah, right, cool. well,
we cycled through those elements of the chat.
You know what's been grinding my gears? It's something that I've noticed this on and off, but I'm noticing it a lot recently, and it's making me go, "Ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that." People pointing at something in a comic book and saying, "Yeah, but that's not comics."
What? Like what?
Give
me an example.
I can. I can, good sir. I've
was-
shown this. I've shown this to a couple of people. So we got a comic book here. This is The Witching Hour by Jeff Loeb and Art Thibault.
Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, lovely comic book, right? And there are certain parts where they do this, right? Which
Okay.
I love.
Yeah.
I would love to do an entire story like
Mm,
this.
mm, mm.
Now, I've shown this to quite a few people, and the amount who turn around and go, yeah, but that's not really comics. It's in a fucking comic book.
If it was a whole book like that, then you could say, no, it's not comics because it's a storybook. But if it's part of a sequential art book, if it's part of that and it kind of breaks it up almost like it punctuates the story,
Yeah.
then of course it's part of it. Of course it's comics. Of course it is.
But that's defining comics as one thing. And that's one of the great things about comics is that you can be quite experimental with both art and words in order to tell a story.
Yes, but I think the core of comics is sequential art.
Okay, so let me bring that little example back up. So, we'll take it from a different issue this time, but it's still the same thing. The art is still sequential.
No, look, it's got panels in it.
So did the other one.
Different to the example you showed earlier.
Okay, let me. This one.
Yeah,
There's
did that have panels?
There's still
I couldn't
panels,
see.
They just don't have borders.
Right, that's sequential art.
Yeah, so it's still sequential.
It's sequential art because it's telling a story with the art.
Exactly.
Whereas a storybook, the individual picture tends to be of a single scene and doesn't move from one scene to another.
Which reminds me, that Silver Surfer book you mentioned last week.
Yes.
Judgment Day. I read that. Fucking loved it. So glad you brought that up because that's another thing I'd like to try and do at some point is a book where every page is pretty much a splash page. But I've met people who've looked at books like that and also said, that's not comics or that's not really comics.
Now, that's exactly what I was saying. And that's why what you just showed me worked once I got a proper look at it. And why that works is because it is sequential.
Exactly.
Even though it goes from one page to another, it's one after the other. It's not prose and then a picture explaining an element of the prose. It's constant sequential art.
Same with... I should have picked up a different Sin City book.
Now you've read...
This is the best one.
Now you've read that book, we can do a review of it.
Yes, we can. Yeah. So this could end up being a double review.
No. We can't do that. It's like there's only so much content in the world.
We've got to save it.
Save it.
But no, I've seen lots of. I think what really grinds my gears about it most is I've seen lots of people. I'm not trying to pin this on any particular one person. I'm talking about lots of people, lots of different people here. I've seen them sort of like point to stuff like that and go, "That's not comics." And then you go, okay, but when they did this in Watchmen, that was. When they did this in Sin City, that was comics. Because you point at those and go, those are comics. But when you see it in a different comic, it's not comics. How does that fucking work?
No. Like I say, I think if you've got some level of sequential art within the book, you can punctuate it with all kinds of things and do lots of things to it. But as long as there's some sequential art, then it's. I think it's. The rules are expandable.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. As Scott McCloud has pointed out, you try and define comics. It's not that fucking easy. There's a lot of stuff out there that some people would look at and say, well, that's an illustrated story, or that's a picture book. And it's like, yeah, but it's also comics. When you look at it closely, and when you think about how wide the range of what a comic is, I think it was one of the cartoonist kayfabe videos where they were going through like picture books and kids' picture books, and a couple of them that they mentioned, I was like, I've got that book. I fucking love that book. And one of them that they brought up was The Snowman.
Right.
The walking in the air. Right. And they said, now let's open it up and go through it. And there are pages with like 9-panel grids and things like that. It's a comic book, but no one would dare call it a comic book.
No, no one would say it.
It's a illustrated children's book. And like if you go onto Amazon and type in illustrated novel, the amount of graphic novels that come up, HELLBOY and Lobster Johnson tend to come up in that, and you're like, huh? How? So like this is what's grinding my gears. People going, but that's not really comic. That's No True Scotsman fantasy. I've bought it up before.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. Make your book the way you want to make it. And if someone doesn't like it, that's their fucking problem.
In fact, make it different as you can.
Yeah.
Because everybody's doing the same thing, really. Yeah. I mean, but do something that makes you jump out.
Yeah, because like we can sit here and go on all day about how the comic book industry is suffering, and that it's because of like the political correctness side of things and the way that pros have been treating the readers and stuff. We also have to take a bit of responsibility here, whether we are fans, creators, whatever, and say, yeah, but we're also gatekeeping it by saying that's not real comics. That stunts the art form and makes it very difficult for other people to get involved.
Although it must be said that that's very much a Anglo-American approach. I think European comics are different.
Oh yeah, same with manga.
Yeah, and manga obviously are a different approach, and should be looked at as a way of the trouble is you've got the Americana art style or approach, should I say, artistic approach, creative approach to comics, superhero comics, action comics, and they've even though they've expanded. I mean, you look at the way it expanded with people like Neil Adams and Jim Steranko, following on from Kirby and moving through and expanding and doing lots of different wacky things, but they still haven't really moved too far away from that Americana feel. And maybe they need to look at the other industries to do something about that. I think the reason the American and action orientated comic book industry is in the state it's in is because of crap stories. It's as simple as that. Do you know what I was watching last night? I was watching Vandervalk. They've remade Vandervalk. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, I don't know if you remember it.
Pictures TV was showing the original.
Right, yeah. I watched that when I was a kid, and what they had in what they had in the 3 episodes were black people, lesbians, non-binary people, all kinds of stuff. And you know what? I didn't notice it until the end when I was analysing the story and went, right, okay, there was lots of really sort of diverse characters and nodes to the story. And you know what? They never pushed any of it. None of it was ideological. It was like, these people exist, these characters exist, these scenarios exist. Let's just have a story with them in.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, it wasn't the greatest crime drama ever, but I really, really enjoyed it. I was kind of like, oh, they've remade something. This is going to be crap. Because normally when you reboot something, it's rubbish. But actually, it was thoroughly enjoyable. It was really good. And I was really impressed by how they'd managed to, well, not managed, how they not managed to throw it to the forefront and just tell stories with all these diverse aspects to them. And it wasn't the core of the story. The core of the story was the crime and how they solved it, and all the other stuff was just part of the environment of the story. Really, really impressed. And if they did that more in Marvel Comics, no matter what they threw into it, people would just go, "Oh yeah, okay." If it's action and it's fun, how many times have people brought this up? But X-Men was all about racial divides and divides of groups of people. That Bayern's Run and later on
lots of allegories to homophobia.
There was loads of it. And you know what? People took it on because it was part of a fantastic story. those stories were great. I remember watching. I remember reading them in the 90s. That's when I came to them with the Jim Lee run and what have you. And it was Claremont. Sorry, it was Claremont, wasn't it? And it was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it never once occurred to me to think anything about it other than these were telling me about there were moral aspects to stories, and I thought personally, even though it was a little bit more cliche and a bit a bit clunky, that actually Stan Lee had done an awful lot of that when he was writing, and a lot of the other writers they put a lot of that kind of stuff in, which is really hyper annoying when you hear people saying, "Oh, Marvel Comics have always been SJW." No, not SJW. They were just.
Yes.
They were just trying to be just. They were just, let's try and include as many people as possible, as many different types of people, and let's put it all into a mixing pot, and let's have a great story out of it. So, I think if they did more of that, and I think DC as well, although they're not as bad, they could just do more of that, and people will just accept the comics. They'll just buy them. And you put good stories out there, and people will buy the stories. It doesn't matter what's in them. If there's a fantastic new superhero and it's a transgender woman or man or whatever who's got all these other kind of things that happen to them, but the story is key. The story is what's the focus. Then I'd buy it because it's about story.
Yeah,
it's about characterization. I don't care who the character is.
Now, funnily enough, you may have seen like I did like a few videos on like independent comics that I've picked up when I've been at conventions, and I've still got a few that I need to do videos on. One that I picked up that I found again, I was like, oh shit, I remember this. Was when I was doing a convention in Birmingham, and the lead character of the book is
good curry in Birmingham. Sorry.
The lead character of the book is a transgender character. This is an independent comic, and the creator was having such trouble selling copies of the book, and it was because all they would say was, "It's a transgender person." And it's like, yeah, but what's the fucking story? You need to buy the book to find out. No, you need to fucking tell me so that I buy the book.
You need an elevator pitch that doesn't include somebody's sex.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care what their gender, their sex is, what color they are. Tell me why they're doing something, or tell me the premise of the story, and then I'll be incited.
I once did a book, right, called Skin and Bones. I was working with another artist. There was meant to be more than one issue, but for reasons that I won't go into between me and the artist, it didn't go past the first issue. But whenever I was promoting that book at conventions, it was the easiest thing to sell because people would come up, they would see the cover, which was done by Stefano Cardacelli, who had worked on Heavy Metal, and they would go, "What's that about?" And I go, "This is about two superpowered serial killers looking for their missing gimp. Would you like to read it?"
I'll have that, please. Done.
Right? I didn't need to mention that one of them's gay, even though they are. I didn't need to mention that one of them's American and one of them is Japanese. Didn't need to do any of that. It was just superpowered serial killers, missing gimp. Please.
Yeah. And yes, exactly. And because of this, much like what we were talking about earlier, celebrity culture, ideology, the politics of just things that you can't change about yourself. It's like, stop. That's what we're talking about, being awake as well. It's like, come on, everybody. They're making sure there's partitions between us all, because divided we fall and united we stand. It's like the powerful stay in power because the rest of us are scrapping over the what's left. And don't let them do that. Just like be joined. We're all human. Let's just enjoy each other's company, enjoy each other's stories, and forget what our immutable aspects are. And they're missing that in current Marvel books for sure. And we just need to get beyond that and get back to just storytelling. And I think, but quite before any of that happened, taking comics off the newsstand was the problem. And problem that they're coming up against now, because this is now, it's not about ideology, it's not about the stories, it's literally about the business model. It's not working, and it hasn't worked for a long time, because you can't get new audiences in the same way as you could.
Because if the bookstores were still open at the moment, if I walk into a bookstore, guarantee you the new volumes of manga titles, they will have them. They will also have the first volume of manga titles. There's a bookstore just around the corner from me, along with a couple of charity stores. I love going into charity stores because I'm a cheap bastard. I went into this charity store, right? This is going back, not last year, but the year before. And I went into this charity store and I saw that they had volume 1 of One Punch Man. At that point, I had never read One Punch Man, just heard people talk about it. And the charity store had marked it up for about 10 quid. And I was like, brand new, it costs 7. Like, what the fuck? And I was arguing with the person behind the counter going, look, it even says on the fucking back, brand new, 7 quid. And they were like, oh, yes, but it's a specialist book. I was like, no, it's fucking not. I went into the bookstore next door and they had the first volume of One Punch Man. So I bought it for 7 quid, went back in there and went, look what I just bought next door for 7 quid. Right? And then fucked off out of there. But that's when it got to me that I was like, hold on. I just went into a bookstore where I can't pick up a copy of Hellboy. I can't pick up a copy of fucking Spider-Man or Deadpool or Doctor Strange or fucking whatever. But I can pick up manga. I can pick up One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, Assassination Class. You can fucking reel them off. I can still go into that bookstore if it was open at this moment in time and pick up Death Note. And Death Note's been out for fucking yonks.
Yeah.
But people can still get it. Now, I cannot do that with any other comic book. Now, there's a channel on YouTube called Comic Tropes. I'm sure people know.
I like Comic Tropes.
He just did a video about Raina. Can't remember her last name, but this girl who's done these comics, they're Eisner award-winning comics, and they're based on like true stories from her life. One's called Smile, one's called Guts, Drama, Ghosts, and he said she sells 18 million copies of a book, like 18 million copies of a book, and he said this is why her books are available in comic book stores, they're available in bookstores. And they're available in Walmart all at the same time. And they're on Amazon and they are affordable.
It's it all.
Right. So Marvel, DC, fucking make note. That's all you need to do. Fuck all the other bullshit. Do that.
It's definitely something that I will attempt to do. I've been thinking about it myself. And that after I've done the crowdfunding for the original book, I may try to find a book publisher rather than a comic book publisher. And see if they're interested in maybe a collection at the far end or something like that, like maybe a black and white only, something like that. I'd like to do, but
it's worth doing,
but it's definitely worth thinking of, and they need, and that's the problem we've got. I mean, we're not the only people. I mean, we've got some very lovely people watching us, just a few, and they're great people, and we're having our little discussion, but there are literally thousands upon thousands of people having exactly the same discussions. Why are the comics book industry not doing X? You know, and you think with all the powerful genius brains there are, why aren't they doing these things? It does make you wonder. You just think, what you know, you could be. Look at how manga sells. Look at how European comics sell. Why aren't they selling? Why aren't they doing other things? And I don't know why. I really don't know why.
Now, kids aren't just picking up manga; they're continually returning to manga. I picked up Volume 1 of My Hero Academia years ago. It's up to Volume 23, and I am still with it. I have pre-ordered like the next 3 or 4 volumes of that fucking book. And one of the reasons why is because it is doing X-Men better than fucking X-Men. And that's because it's not being a slave to tradition. Okay, it's respecting tradition, but it's still doing its own thing. And I'm finding, this is just my personal opinion, but I'm finding when I'm reading a lot of comics, especially ones that are recently done, It's all trying to follow tradition. It goes back to that, but if you do this, that's not comics. But the best comics, the most notable, memorable comics, the ones that everyone talks about, Watchmen, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Akira, The Crow, the list goes on, all of them have one thing in common. They break the fucking rules.
Yeah.
So can people, right? Whenever I do a video on writing comics, yes, I go on about the rules because you need to learn the rules like a professional before you can break them like an artist. I want you to fucking break them.
Yes.
You have to know what they are and how to use them first.
Yeah, definitely.
So can people please, just one person, I'll love you forever. Just practice the rules and then break them. Beat them like they owe you fucking money.
Do you know who's breaking some rules at the moment? Sean Gordon.
Yes.
And I was looking at some of his art today, and please forgive me, everybody. And this is not me being arrogant in any way, shape, or whatever, shape or form, whatever. This is just an opinion. I looked at a couple of his drawings and I thought, oh, that's a bit wrong. Because he'd broken the bloody rules and he'd done it so damn well. And I looked at I think I was also looking at the poster, kind of like the main thing for his latest book that's coming out on Indiegogo. I'll have to go and buy that, actually. And I will only be buying it for the art. I'm not interested in the story. I just want to see more of his art. And I looked at it, and there were a couple of things in it. I thought, God, that's really pissing my eye off. But he just breaks the rules so damn well. And the other thing I was looking at his work, and this is something because we will get to this book. Something else I was looking at Mignola's work as well. It's like it's unique. Nobody else draws like Mignola. Yeah. There are people that try and copy him, but you can see a mile off when it's him. And it's same. It's exactly the same with Sean Gordon Murphy. You can see a bloody mile off when it's him. Even though some aspects of his work are a little mangerish, and there's some aspects of his work that look like other things, but it's so him. A little bit Ben Templesmith on occasion. But it's him. You can spot it a mile off. And I looked at my own work today, and I was quite pleased with the stuff I was doing for Storm Chasers. And I'm pushing myself further and further away from being right. If you see what I mean, following the rules. I'm trying to push myself away from it. So like go deep into that Bronze Age look, but deep into the aspect that was not realistic. Pushing myself away from any kind of realism, because there's some. I saw some artwork today from a DC book. I think it was their what's their team? With Batman and Superman on and everything. It's
what, Justice League?
Justice League, that's it. I don't read a lot of DC. Justice League. I'd read Batman, but that's it. Justice League. I haven't even seen the film. Apparently it's crap. So Justice League. And I saw some art panels from that. And good God, they were so fucking good. They were so good. And they were so realistic. And they didn't fill me with any passion. They were beautiful. They filled me with an awe of how good they were.
Yeah.
But it didn't make me want a comic. It didn't make me want to buy it. And I look at Mignola's work. If you were to objectively look at Mignola and then look at that Justice League book, you'd go, well, Mignola's crap, isn't he? Let's buy the Justice League book. But no, it's completely the other way around. Mignola is unique. His passion, his drama, his gravitas, everything about it. And do you know what? It's something that we'll get into. I'll leave that for when we're talking about the review. But it's just so damn good. And as much as I appreciated the art that I saw, the panels that I saw for the Justice League book, it just didn't fill me with any passion. And the stuff that I see, some of the Batman stuff that I've seen of Sean Gordon Murphy, fills me with that passion. It fills me with that, wow, look at that. That's striking. It's jumping off the page. It's making me want it in the way that Mignola makes me want his work, or even Buscema. Now you look at Buscema's work, and obviously there's a huge amount of an anatomical correctness in it, but there's something about it. There's a flow. You can spot a John Buscema page a fucking mile off. It
You're
doesn't
fucking right.
matter. Doesn't matter that his anatomy is perfect. Well, no, it's not perfect. It's stretched, but it is. Okay, it doesn't matter how right he is, how many rules he follows. It's the ones that he breaks that make the difference, and that you can just pick out his style a mile off, and that's what I'm going to attempt to do with my book. It's difficult. It's not an easy thing to attain, and I probably won't get it right first time, but I've at least got to drive that way rather than trying to be something else. You must try to be you. You must try to be your own style.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of like two things. One being in movies, like you can bring me Avengers Endgame and show me all that CGI. The amount of it that doesn't feel tangible, it doesn't feel real. I don't feel that the characters are in danger, not because they're Marvel characters and we know they're going to be okay, but because what they're fighting, what they're up against is a digital cartoon, right? I know it's not really there. It doesn't feel like it's there. Now, when I pick up a horror movie from the 80s, something like David Cronenberg's The Fly, when Jeff Goldblum arm wrestles that guy and breaks his arm, I'm going,
it's hideous.
Oh, fuck, that hurts. If I watch Miyazaki's I Spit on Your Grave, when Camille Keaton takes off that guy's lad, I fucking feel that. Not CGI. It's the same with music. Like, you go back to the days of punk, you go back to the days of grunge, right? These artists, they would record something, and the amount of times the producer would be like, oh, you fluffed something up there. Do you want to re-record that? And they'd be like, no, why would I want to do that? The song's good.
It's real.
The song has energy. It's raw, and it makes you go, fuck yeah. But people today, because it's all digital technology, and you can just go, click. See, that note was slightly out. Now it's fucking spot on, and it feels lifeless and fucking soulless.
And that's what's dangerous about doing art digitally.
Yes.
That's the danger.
Right, yeah.
That's the danger. And it's the spontan. What I'm loving about the Bronze Age work and about things and about people like Mignola and Murphy is the spontaneity of their work. They're still doing things traditionally, and I'm even tempted to get my boards out and start brushing. I'm very tempted. At the moment, things are going okay, but I'm tempted because it's the spontaneity I'm after. So I don't know. It's definitely important to have that look and that spontaneity. Shall we go to the chat because there's
yes. Let's go to the chat because I noticed earlier there was a question or something. I was like, we must come back to that, and I fucking missed it. Okay, what's going on? Right, see. Here's one from Mario. Question: I don't remember the video. Fway, talk about how many pages can have a comic. I think he means how many. What's the page counts for comics? Can you answer that or tell me what's the video name, please? Look, Mario, thank you very much for the question. I can't remember which video that is. I'll tell you right now, like, if you're working with a publisher or if you're doing it independently and you're doing single issues, there's going to be a page count. Say like 24. Normally, if you're doing it yourself, there's about 24 pages per issue. If you're doing it for an American publisher, it's about 22 pages, unless it's a prestige one shot, in which case it's about 46. And
can be as little as 18 sometimes.
Yep, it can. Warren Ellis's Fell was 18 pages an issue, but at the end of the day, you're doing it for yourself. You make it as many as you fucking like.
Yep.
That's the real honest answer. If you're doing it for yourself, hey, if you want it to be 360 pages, go nuts. Go nuts, more power to you, and good luck. We'll see you on the other side. Just bear in mind, when you find a printer, they are only going to print X amount of pages before they go, okay, you want 566 pages? Our maximum's 300. You're going to have to chop some shit down or do it as 2 volumes or whatever. But
And obviously the caveat of not giving yourself too big a project as well.
Oh god, yeah. Oh god, yeah. Because there's nothing that like kills your enthusiasm than a project that is way too big for you.
I went for 60 pages because I wanted to do fairly weighty books, but I wanted to do maybe if I can get this to a point where I have a readership, then I'd like to do 2 a year.
Yeah.
And that can work into a nice flow rather than doing one every 2 months and doing, say, 18 or 20 pages. I'd rather do a 60-page lump. And actually, the HELLBOY, the way that he used to do that, he used to come in with a 4 or a 6-issue miniseries, didn't he? It was always just, and it wasn't an ongoing. It was an ongoing story, but it was punctuated by these miniseries. So pretty much that's what I want to do, is punctuate it with each book, and it's just like a chunk of story in each one, but it's self-contained.
And
so,
the guys who did Hack Slash, when they started off, it was just, here's a one-shot story, and then a few months later, here's another one-shot story.
Yeah.
And then they would do a mini-series, and then they eventually went on to like an ongoing series. And this is the thing, like, one thing that people seem to forget about is, like, comic books are a single unit. So shouldn't they be like, if I give you a book, shouldn't it be a full story? Regardless of the page count. It should be a full story. And people haven't done that in a long fucking time.
Something else that's crept into the mainstream comic book environment is they're writing for trades.
Yeah.
So they're extending their books, and they're not. Back in the day, you could pick up a Spider-Man book, and there might be an ongoing arc, but you'd pick up a book, and there'd be a story in that 20 pages of, and it'd be like, oh wow, this is a book about Razorback, which was a stupid pig thing. It was a guy in a pig costume with a big set of fins on his back, and it was one issue.
Inspired by the Ozploitation movie of the same name.
They made one issue where Razorback turned up and caused havoc, and then Spider-Man beat him up, and then it was on the next issue. And that's you could jump in at any moment, not have lots of people sitting around in coffee shops talking.
Exactly. Because back then they understood how to write an episodic story. And
that's because it was.
Yeah, exactly. But now the writers they hire, they write serialized. Now, there's nothing wrong with serialized storytelling, nothing wrong with episodic storytelling. Comics. This is, look at me going, this is what comics is. This is what real comics is. Me being a fucking hypocrite. Me being an absolute fucking hypocrite. You don't need to call me out on it because I'll do it myself. Comics, like single issue comics, work best when they're episodic. If you want something that's more substantial or serialized, just do a fucking graphic novel and the page count that you want it to be done at.
That exact expression. You're not gatekeeping there. You're saying what works best. And literally what works best is that pulp. It's that Saturday. What comics grew out of was Saturday morning films. Buck Rogers,
Saturday morning cartoons,
Batman, that kind of stuff, you know. And it's like this cliffhanger stuff, you know, cliffhanger stuff. And you come back, and that's why comics went through this mad financial, you know, value thing in the 90s. Why there was this bubble, because comics were throwaway items. That's why they were rare, which was why they were valuable. They're not valuable anymore. They're not valuable anymore. It doesn't matter how many number ones you get. They print them in 50, 60,000 and people keep them in a plastic wallet.
Yeah,
because they're buying number ones, which means they're not valuable.
They're never going to be worth shit. Because
that whole thing is wrong.
In order for something to become worth a lot of money, it has to first of all be worth negative money. Okay, it's something that they call like a trough of like no value or something like that. In other words, people have to really not want it before it becomes valuable. Hence why all these fucking people who go, oh, new Star Wars toys are going out, I'm going to buy one to open, buy one to keep up in the attic, and then buy another one to sell it. It's never going to be worth shit because they've just sold millions of them because every fucker wants one.
No, I only buy two books to do two things with. One to keep because I like to keep my books, not to sell them. It's not for my collection. It's because I like having those books in pristine so that I can look at them. And then I'll maybe have a paperback version if it is a hard and paperback option. that's there for me to flick through, to use as reference, to enjoy on a daily basis.
Or
So yeah,
this is one thing I like about anthology titles. I can read the book in each issue, like with 2000 AD, and if I like the book that's being serialized in 2000 AD, then once the trade comes out, I can buy that. I can put it on my shelf so it's nice and pristine. I can take some time to look at it. But if I want to like read it and get really raw with it, I can use these.
And yet 2000 AD in anthology is a well, I haven't read them in a while, but that's what they were really good at. They were really good at that episodic content.
This is the latest issue.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with them because they've just done the last episode of the final Survival Geeks story.
All right.
No, I am not happy about it. Neil Googe, the artist for Survival Geeks, who isn't watching this, right? I've got a message for you, Sunshine. You better tell me whether you stopped doing this because you got bored or because 2000 AD told you. Right? Because either way, I'm not happy. Get back on it. This is not how you end their story. Bastards.
So, yeah, there you go.
Did anyone say entitled?
So, between us, we've managed to fix the comic business, which is pretty good. I think that's a good night's work.
We're getting better at this. We've learned how to do it just that little bit better each week.
Yeah, each week.
We did this for a year. We'll be fucking pros.
Got that off our chest. So Marv was saying something. That's what I love about Buscema. Big, but not with steroids. I hate the 90s stuff till now. Most of the comics for that, everybody is on steroids. Why? No, I absolutely agree with you. That whole presentation, it was easy to get swept up in it as a young man. I got swept up in it in the 90s, that whole bombastic style, but I don't like it now. I think it's over the top. And it's something that I'm going to mention actually about HELLBOY will pertain to that 90s approach. And Wakey
J87, my man.
I love writing issues, but resent paying the same amount for a 20-page issue as I would a 35-page issue. The page count doesn't mean it'll be better or worse, but cost per page is important. Yeah, I agree with you.
Exactly, especially when, oh God, was it like an issue of Savage Dragon or X-Men or something that was like $8, $9, $10 for like a fucking 24-page book? But yeah, I could pay less than that and get a 200-page manga.
Yeah, I know. It's just. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it comes down to taste as well, because I'm not a big fan of manga. I like the occasional thing, so I would pay some extra money for a particular book of a particular style, so a more Americana Western style. But there does come a point where you think, well, this is a rip-off. And I think that's why I buy so many back issues, is because I didn't feel like I was getting ripped off.
Well, another way I could look at it is Marvel can release Snowflake and Safe Space and charge $5, $6, $7, $8 for the issue, whatever. I would rather pay $30. Get this.
Look at that.
Two trade paperbacks.
Look at that.
$30.
I've got the poor man's version here.
Oh, that's okay.
Shall I get on?
When you had that lovely hardback of Arkham Asylum that I'm very jealous of.
Is this the cue? Is this the cue for us to do our review now?
I think it should be, yes.
We've rattled long enough, have we? I've managed to whinge my way through most of the podcast. Right, what was different about this one? Because obviously we did the first one last week.
We did Seed of Destruction last week, and this week we thought we would do Wake the Devil.
Yeah, and this is almost something that I was going to get to about art and story. It's like, this is really, it's Mignola being Mignola.
Yes,
it's even more Mignola than the first one, if it could possibly be.
yes, I know exactly what you mean.
I don't know how he managed to do it. It's even more direct, so there's fewer backgrounds. There's more black. It's him being
there's
so
more energy.
Yeah, really energetic. Without, I mean, this I wish I could draw like this just to save myself time drawing, because
I would
he's
love to draw like
because
Mignola.
what he does is he simplifies things and yet doesn't. He
Yes.
creates faces, like some of the human faces in here that look really real, and yet you take a second look at them and you go, no, they look nothing
Yeah.
like a real human face.
Yeah.
It's just stunning, absolutely stunning stuff. It really is more Mignola than the first one. It seems to have more panels per page. I may be wrong,
In
but
certain parts, yeah.
it seems quite condensed, and
Yeah.
that's where it comes on to my concept and what I was mentioning about the 90s is in the 90s. A lot of the comics were written again by artists, so that it
Yes.
was very much a focus on the art driving the story.
Yeah.
This is the story driving the art. That's the way I see it anyway. I mean, Mike
Yeah.
Mignola might disagree with me on that,
Yeah.
but he seems to come across to me as a storyteller
Oh, yeah.
before he's an artist. And
Yeah, I get that feeling as well.
you know, and it's almost like you could look at some of this art and kind of go, but combined with the story, this is a really weird sensation. It elevates the art, which is what it should do, which is what comic
Yeah.
books should do. And it really is a fantastic combination of art and story that goes so well together. It's hard to find another example that is so synergetic, if that's a word. It's just it's stunning stuff, and I absolutely thoroughly enjoy these books. They are so not anything that I would even try to draw or attempt to be like, but I find them so
It makes you want
stimulating.
to.
Yeah, I find them so stimulating and so inspiring simply because of the focus, the like I was saying earlier on about the stylistic aspect, the fact that it's unique to Mignola, and the energy and drama that he gets in there is there's so many blacks. How does he get away with it? And so many big spaces. It's just fantastic.
And
Brilliant.
one thing I love is
Buy
he's really good at like building up the atmosphere and stuff by just adding a panel like this one.
Yeah.
Whereas it's got fuck all to do with the story. It's more like this is somewhere in the environment.
Yes.
This is somewhere in the location that this scene is in. You don't need to know that it's there. I just want you to, kind of thing. But he does it so fucking well. And look, I'm not going to lie to you. I prefer See the Destruction over Wake the Devil.
Yeah.
I really do. Wake the Devil is definitely an ambitious story for him. And he admits that himself, that as an artist, writer, it was a very ambitious project for him.
Yeah, he said his editor saved him on this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you can tell that he's still trying to find his feet as a storyteller, because there's some stuff in there that I'm like, that should be a reveal on a page turn. Why is it like the last panel of the page where you're setting shit up? You haven't given me reason to turn the page. I mean, I'm going to, because I'm reading the comic book and I want to know how it ends and stuff. So yeah, it's very ambitious. And I get the feeling that he's a storyteller first. The one thing he does amazing in Wake the Devil that I think he actually does better in Wake the Devil than See the Destruction, pacing.
Yeah.
The pacing of the story is fucking second to none. He just knocks that one out of the park. You want to study like pacing when it comes to writing your comic book stories, you cannot go wrong with Wake the Devil.
Yeah. I can't help but smile every time I flick through a Mignola book. It just makes you smile because
you can never have too many Mignola books. You just can't. It's impossible. Scientists have even confirmed this. That's how impossible it is.
Again, it's a lesson in style.
It is
a lesson in being unique, being you, being your style, finding yourself, and displaying it on the comic book page. Definitely.
Right. There's so many kind of like rules for life, right? No matter what you're doing in life, there are rules for life. One of them that I think is a really, really important one, and I think Mignola is pretty much embodies this, is don't give a fuck about what other people think of you and what you do. And to me, Mignola embodies that. I cannot look at stuff that he does and think, this man cares about what other people think about him, so he obviously does certain things just to please others. No, it's all for him. I've shown this book before. This is one of my favorites, Amazing Screw-On Head. It is just such a gorgeous book. And this is another one. Just every single part of it, even these end pages here, you just look at Mignola. It's fucking Mignola. Lots of blacks, lots of environments, lots of Victorian horror style stuff. Abraham Lincoln, because why not? There's one thing that he does really good in Amazing Screw-On Head that's just so simple, just to help use up the last few pages. I love these. Right, just these portrait bits with these signs. This one says cannibal. This one, werewolf. And they're just genius. It's dark, but it just makes you smile.
Yeah, no,
it's
brilliant.
Lovely. Absolutely.
We did something similar to that in Terminus at Fenton's Green.
All right.
I've got a hardback of it, but there we go. Can I find a softback? No. So this is my first graphic novel. This is my first graphic novel.
Nice.
Terminus at Fenton's Green, and we did something similar. So there's the intro page. You see that?
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. What I'll have to do is send you the PDF, and then there's a little bit of going on there. So I was really pleased with the presentation. I did all the design on the inside, and you got the chapter 1. And then at the end, what we did was we put in a werewolf story, but we also had some pin-ups of demons and stuff in the back. And I think that even though there was nowhere near something that Mignola would do, it was very heavily inspired. The design of it was very heavily inspired by the kind of things that he does. And he's definitely an all-round creative. There's just so much he does, the design of things, and that shows through in his comic pages and his storytelling, is that, like you were talking about, pace and punctuation and placement. He's an all-round. And that's why I liken him to Murphy.
Yeah.
Because Murphy is an all-rounder. He's not just he's a storyteller. He's an artist. He's a sequential artist, but he's also a great designer.
Yes.
And he's got a really great eye for everything. And his book is going to be superb. There's no doubt about that.
And the other thing I like about Mignola is he loves story so much that not every story he does has to be a comic book. There's a big difference between being someone who loves comics and someone who loves story. Mignola has done several books that are just illustrated novels. Well, it's mostly prose, and you get every sort of like 30 odd pages, you might get like a panel this big just to break up the prose that's going on. I've got one, not in this room, I've got it upstairs. It's called Grim Death and Bill the Electrocuted Villain, I think. It's something like that. Or
Pretty sure I've heard of that, actually.
Something like that. I still need to read it, but I've flicked through it so many times, and it's mostly prose. And that's okay. That's okay. He's just like, look, the story's got to be told, and I'm going to fucking tell it. And I'm going to utilize the medium that I think will tell the story best, rather than trying to force something into a particular medium.
Yeah.
And
I that's impressive. Yeah.
I think that's one thing like people really need to learn. Like, there's nothing wrong with going, I love comics. Of course not. Comics are a great medium. But sometimes you have to take a look at your story and just go, okay, this isn't meant to be for comics. I've had to do it several times where I've come up with a story thinking, yeah, I'm going to do this as a graphic novel. I'm going to do this as a one shot. And then I've sat there, developed the story, and said, the worst thing I can do is make it a comic book. It has to be a novel. It has to be a script for, like, say, like a radio drama or an animation. You've It's not an easy thing to do. I think that's actually harder than going for your own story and going, okay, I've got to trim out this bit of fat. I like this
Yeah,
scene,
yeah,
but it's got to
yeah,
come out because
yeah,
it's not helping. That's a lot fucking easier.
yeah. Oh no, that's far more creative than me. I could only do comics. There's no fucking great novel in me. I can assure you of that.
Oh, don't be so sure. We'll get it out of you some way.
I'm just hoping for some half decent comics. That's all. I'll be happy with that.
Oh man. So yeah, guys, I guess that's our review of Wake the Devil.
And our love fest for Mignola.
Oh yes, I have a feeling there will be more love fests for Mignola
I'm sure
along the way, because he's done so many books. There's still so much Hellboy to talk about. The third trade paperback is probably my favorite Hellboy one, because that's my favorite Hellboy story, The Corpse.
Ah, right. I haven't read it. It's set up on my shelf, but I haven't read it.
Oh,
It's only so much time of the day.
that's no excuse. Besides, if we're still doing the book that we said we were going to do next week, you still need to read
Daredevil. Yes, I've got to read
Daredevil,
that. Yeah.
Guardian Devil, which a couple of episodes ago I said we would do, and
yeah, we're going to do
instead we did Seed of Destruction, but we are going to do Guardian Devil next week.
We can do it, and we'll do Judgment Day the day of the week after. Is it Judgment Day? Yeah, we'll do Judgment Day the week after.
Judgment Day, because I'm quite happy to reread that. I had to get a digital version of it. It was literally after the last show. I was like,
I'm going to go have a look at that.
Mentioned that book. I really want to read that book now, because you don't find too many books that are like splash pages. Yeah,
it's Bronze Age fluff, but it's great fun. It's great. It's great.
I think it was part of a Marvel graphic novel series.
I think it was. Yeah, I think I've got a couple of them.
Quite a few different ones. There was a Spider-Man one, Thor, and some odd ones as well.
Yeah, I've got one with The Thing and Ben Grimm.
Yes.
When they're on an alien world. I can't remember the name of it, but that's
I think I know the one you're on.
The art in that is beautiful. It's all painted. Superb stuff.
Oh, fantastic. Right. Well, I guess we better wrap this up.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you very much for joining us again for Is It Just Us?
Is It Just Us?
And Russ, do you want to tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Comicbook Blackbelt. That's my YouTube channel. You can find me at russleach.com, comicbookblackbelt.com, or onlydeathcansavus.com. That's the name of my new book. And you can sign up for the email subscription list there. You can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just shout at me there, and I'll shout back.
Fantastic. And there's a link to Russ's YouTube channel in the description box down below, and you can find me at luciferstorm.com, where you can sign up to my mailing list. I'll keep you up to date the best that I can with things like Lady Satan and this little 3-track Murderfolk EP that I've got on the way. Hopefully that'll be ready and out by next episode. We'll just have to wait and see.
Cool.
But yeah, that's it from us. We'll see you again next week, guys, at the same time, and until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Most importantly, stay awesome, stay safe.
Thanks for the chat. See you guys. Peace.
See ya.